Suddenly, the woman is slammed into the water. She's completely at the mercy of the killer whale. Annette struggles for air as she's pushed through the water. Another trainer brings in a rescue pole, and Annette reaches for it. But before she's pulled to safety, the creature rams her again, ripping the pole from her hands. The whale bites down on her leg and won't let go. The trainers know that if they pull too hard, her flesh will be shredded by the animal's giant teeth. One of the trainers forces the whale to open its jaws, and the injured woman is pulled to safety.
She never had a chance. A 40-year-old female trainer in the jaws of a 22-foot-long killer whale, a massive orca weighing 12,300 pounds.
She apparently slipped or fell into the tank and was fatally injured by one of the whales.
It happened at about 2 o'clock this afternoon at Seaworld in Orlando, Florida. But exactly what happened is still unclear. Seaworld says senior trainer Dawn Brancheau, who was interviewed on CNN 2 years ago, slipped into the tank. But an eyewitness tells CNN the killer whale, a bull orca named Tilikum, actually grabbed the trainer and pulled her into the tank.
There was a trainer standing there by the window just talking about the whale, and people were asking questions, how much does he weigh, things like that. And then the whale went on his, floated upside down, and the trainer downstairs said, oh, yeah, he's, they're giving him a belly rub. He really likes that. And I could tell it was Tilikum because you could tell by the huge fins.
The whale is believed to be the largest orca in captivity. His fins alone measure more than 6 feet. The eyewitness says when the trainer, who was not in the water, gave the go-ahead, the whale took off.
Just took off really fast, and then he came back around to the glass, jumped up, and grabbed the trainer by the waist and started shaking her violently, and her shoe, last thing we saw was her shoe floating, and then sirens immediately started.
The crowd that had gathered for the show was cleared out. The park manager at SeaWorld says the trainer drowned. An expert with the Orca Network who studies whales told me Tilikum has always been known to be aggressive and doesn't swim with other trainers. He told me Tilikum's role in the SeaWorld show is simply to splash and soak the audience using his massive tail. Orca Network's Howard Garrett says the whale's lack of companionship may have triggered this attack.
When you put a highly social mammal like an orca into captivity for long periods, they have nothing. They have no stimulation. They have no companionship. And that can tend to create stress.
In fact, park goers say the whales at earlier shows today appeared stressed and stopped obeying commands.
We have never in the history of our parks experienced an incident like this.
But this is not the first time this killer whale has been involved in the death of a trainer. Back in 1991, nearly 20 years ago, Tilikum and 2 other whales killed their trainer at a park in British Columbia in front of a crowd. She had fallen into the tank, and the whales dragged her underwater. 8 years later, in 1999, the naked body of a man was found floating in Tilikum's tank. He had snuck into SeaWorld. Authorities said he was the victim of horseplay. Could it be that Tilikum, the killer whale, was looking to horse around this time, too?
Unlike your dog at home who'll just scratch your leg, if the killer whale wants to play with you, he's only going to show it to you one way, and in this case, it's to pull you in the water.
No matter what Tilikum has done, the Orca Network believes SeaWorld will keep him. As the primary breeding male for all SeaWorld parks, he's worth millions. At a time when whales are dying faster than they are being born, the Orca Network says Tilikum is SeaWorld's future.
Well, he provides semen to impregnate females. He's a beautiful animal. He's huge. He is impressive, and people just see him and go, wow. And, he's a money stream,
all right,
as well as a great animal.
Then I visited as an adult. I was sickened and sad. Anybody who cannot see the cruelty inflicted on these creatures hardly deserves to be called human. As badly as I feel for the trainer, I feel even more sorry for the whale. Ban SeaWorld. It's no different than dogfighting. Margaret, in Omaha, Nebraska, wild animals are wired to be free and to roam and to do what comes naturally to them, not do stupid animal tricks. If people could put themselves in the animal's skin, think about being confined and forced to do unnatural things, I think people would no longer buy tickets to shows with animals. Joni writes, I agree with PETA and Jack. Get rid of all confinement and silly tricks in circuses and places like Seaworld. Wild animals were meant for the wild, not for human entertainment. It's called respect. Respect for our environment and for those who share it. And Chris writes, no. Killer whales should not be kept in captivity and used for entertainment in any way. I was watching CNN this morning. A spokesperson for that particular Seaworld was trying to convince everyone that the sole purpose for keeping these animals was research. That's BS. They're making money, and that's all they care about. I mean, I saw a picture of a woman surfing on top of one of these animals' heads. That's research?
He says Tilikum gets excellent care at Seaworld, and he believes that's the best place for him to be, but he makes some counterpoints. He says that in the wild, the dorsal fin for the male killer whale is healthy. You see it here on the left. It goes straight up because it's supported by the gravity of the water. But in captivity, he says, look at this picture. The whales are often kept in tanks that are not even as deep as the whales are long. They rest at the surface or just below the surface with their backs exposed. The fibroelastic cartilage in their fin weakens and the fin droops. Another key question in this whole debate, why isn't this animal destroyed like many others are after it attacks a person? Well, Jeffrey Ventry says Tilikum shouldn't be destroyed, that it's a great animal, and he likely just thought he was playing with Brancho when this incident occurred. But he says there is also financial motivation here.
What does he think may have triggered this whale to go ahead and do this?
It's interesting. It's fascinating to hear an expert talk about this. He says that Tilikum has some potential stressors. We're going to go over those with you right now. Stressors that he believes could have triggered this. He says one of them is living in a small pool. He says aside from maybe 2 pools at SeaWorld, many of them these whales can barely fit in. As we mentioned earlier, some of them are not even as deep as the whales are long. Another potential stressor, he's a male, and killer whales are a female-dominated society. He calls him a subdominant animal in a matriarchal pod of killer whales. Some of those females might have agitated him. He says those females wolf very, very dominant in these pods.
Does he think that Tilikum, for example, could survive in the ocean, in the wild right now?
He's a little conflicted about that, and he says that's a big debate. He says the seaquarium crowd believes that they cannot do that. The environmentalists believe that they can do it. He believes that the best place for Tilikum, this particular whale, is at SeaWorld, but he says one thing they might want to try is reuniting him with his native pod back off Iceland. That's where he's from, apparently. It may or may not work. So it's a real dicey issue.
He's been held there for a long time.
A long time in captivity, a long time in SeaWorld, probably, I mean, we're guessing from the early 90s.
Right.
Not guessing, we know he was brought there in the early 90s. He was in captivity before that. That's a very long time.